with January coming up, these are going to be good questions to ask. And basically, one of the questions is, why isn't there a new stimulus bill yet? And what is gumming up the works, and why is it being held back? So those are good questions to ask, because there are a lot of people struggling that might need this. And you know how the Republicans are, they've been holding off everything because you know how they're just greedy pricks that don't only care about themselves. With COVID 19 cases and weekly unemployment numbers growing, many individuals and families will face increasing pressure through the end of 2020 to make ends meet. And without Congress renewing a handful of economic supports this year that provide additional unemployment aid and protection from evictions, the incoming President Joe Biden will face growing economic crisis as he takes office in January. But despite the calls from both Democratic and Republican leaders for more federal economic assistance, with just a handful of weeks left till 2021, lawmakers continue to spend more time talking about the need for additional aid than sitting down and working out another economic relief package. We're asking the Senate Majority Leader Moscow Mitch to come back to the table, said House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. This is what she had said on November 20th, to meet the needs of the American people in addition to a second stimulus check. The next bill could renew federal programs designed to support individuals and small businesses. Moscow Mitch had also urged the legislators to pass more federal aid before the end of the year. American workers should not lose their jobs needlessly when a second round of the job saving Paycheck Protection Program for the hardest hit small businesses would make a huge difference. Our medical system should not be denied additional support, including for distributing the life saving vaccines that appear to be on the horizon. Republicans continue to support passing these kinds of urgent and targeted measures as soon as possible. Biden last week had pushed for Congress to pass the HEROES Act, which would include $2 trillion in aid to individuals, businesses, and state and local government. But behind the scenes, the president elect and his transition team may be open to a smaller package if that's what it takes to make a deal with the Republicans. But here's what's keeping the two sides from finding the middle ground and coming to an agreement, and we will update the story frequently as it unfolds. The amount of money for unemployment aid. A recent survey by the U.S. Census Bureau had found that 14 million Americans have had little or no confidence that they'll be able to pay next month's rent. But the ongoing disagreement between the Republicans and Democrats over extra unemployment benefits, also called the unemployment insurance, paints a clear picture of where each side stands and the gulf between them. The CARES Act gave $600 per week to unemployed job seekers on top of their unusual unemployment check, in response to job loss caused by the pandemic. With funding under the CARES Act lapsed, um, Pumpkin Tits signed an executive order in August to pay a $300 per week bonus if the states participated. That has mostly petered out or will by December 31st, and the Republicans in the Senate and the administration proposals aim for $300 or $400 on top of the individual's usual unemployment benefit. The state and local funding, basically. Prior to the election, the White House proposed a $1.8 trillion package that included $300 billion for states and local funding that would in part pay the salaries of the first responders, health workers, and teachers. The Democrat-authored HEROES Act from May is a $2.2 trillion proposal that sets aside over $1 trillion for this category. Moscow Mitch conceded on November 4th that the state and local funding may be included in a different future proposal, but he hasn't offered any details. The liability protection to shield businesses from lawsuits related to the COVID-19. Republican legislators have adamantly supported COVID-19 liability protection, which would limit people from suing businesses, schools, and hospitals if they acquired the coronavirus, except for the instances of gross negligence. We want to make sure that we protect the people we've already sent assistance to, or who are going to be set up for an avalanche of lawsuits if we don't act. Moscow Mitch said in April. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about them. Pelosi has resisted these protections. I think that there is a balance that can be struck, but it isn't. But it isn't the Moscow Mitch language. She said on October 20th, indicating that some sort of shielding for businesses and other institutions could be present in a final bill. Earned income tax credits for families. The earned income tax credit would let American taxpayers with low or moderate incomes reduce how much money they owe in a given year. In the context of a stimulus bill, it would in part expand the number of people who are eligible and the amount they could apply toward their total tax return for 2021. Similarly, the child tax credit lets taxpayers claim a credit on their yearly returns of up to $2,000 per child dependent. Democrats propose to make 2020's the 2020 credit fully refundable and send advance payments ahead of the 2021 tax season so that people have access to the money sooner. But the funding for COVID-19 treatment, testing, and tracing, Democrats are seeking money for coronavirus testing, contact tracing, and isolation measures, in addition to money for hospitals and healthcare providers. Pelosi, during a news conference on November 20th, continued to push for funding for testing, tracing, and treatment. Moscow Mitch has said he also supports funding for the coronavirus efforts, but not offered any specifics. Our medical system should not be denied additional support, Moscow Mitch said on November 20th. Yeah, according to your mind, the medical system is only for the rich and not for the poor. I know that's what your fucking ugly ass is thinking. School and child care funding. The revised HEROES Act seeks about $182 billion for kindergarten to 12th grade and $39 billion for higher education. It also mentions a $57 billion bill for the child care. School funding is also part of the Republicans' agenda and was most recently in the Senate's $500 billion skinny bill that failed to advance in the chamber on October 21st, as well as in September when it received its first vote. This narrower bill was blocked by the Senate Democrats both times. But what did the White House propose? Pumpkin Tits on November 14th took to Twitter to urge Congress to do a COVID relief bill, and that says it needs the Democrat support and make it big and focused. While the White House offered a proposal in October that could have provided a starting point for the administration's counter-proposal since the election, the administration appears to have ceded talks like Moscow Mitch. It's estimated that the administration package would have been worth $1.9 trillion or even more, and the CARES Act from March cost $2 trillion, and the House of Representatives revised HEROES Act came in at a $2.2 trillion. But here's what we know based on early details from the Washington Post and what we've heard since. Stimulus checks of up to $1,200 for eligible adults and $1,000 for qualifying child dependents. The CARES Act set dependent payments at $500, but here's how you can calculate an estimate of your total sum if this stick changes. The proposal originally set enhanced unemployment benefits at $400 a week, and that's even though that's down from the $600 that was included in the CARES Act, but it's up from the $300 that the squatter authorized this summer through executive action. The final figure remains a sticking point in regulation, in the negotiations anyway. But what we don't know about the package under discussion, there is so much to the two sides that haven't revealed about the current plan's details and costs. But we do know that at some point these funding areas will have to come up for one or both parties. but these are two things that are going to need to be talked about. Payroll support for small businesses and airline workers, and the housing assistance, including more eviction protections. While we wait to see how and when negotiations over the next stimulus package resume. But here's what you need to know about coronavirus hardship loans, unemployment insurance, and what you could do if you ever lost your job in the future. This is necessary precautions here. But if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Random Mike, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.